I thought I was going to have my main character moment, but I ended up becoming everyone else's cautionary tale instead. Let me tell you about the night that changed everything. Because this story needs the full context to understand just how spectacularly things went sideways. I'm Alexis, 29, and I'd been with Steven for 5 years, engaged for one. Steven's one of those guys who's impossible to hate. He's got this quiet confidence that draws people in, always 3 steps ahead in conversations. The type who remembers your coffee order after meeting you once. He's annoyingly thoughtful and has this way of making everyone around him feel heard. But here's the thing. Being with someone that perfect started feeling suffocating. For months, I'd been having these thoughts. You know, when you're scrolling through social media and seeing all these people living their best single lives while you're meal prepping for 2 and discussing mortgage rates. That was me. I felt like I was missing out on something bigger, something more exciting. Steven was safe. Predictable in the best way. But safe doesn't make your heart race. The doubts got louder as my 29th birthday approached, my golden birthday. I decided to throw myself this massive celebration at this upscale venue downtown. We're talking over 100 guests. Open bar, DJ, the whole production. It cost me nearly $8,000. But I insisted on paying because this was my moment. Steven offered to split the cost. But I shut that down immediately. This is about celebrating me. I told him. I had this vision of myself in the gorgeous silver dress I'd bought specifically for the occasion. Being the center of attention. Feeling alive again. What I didn't know was that while I was planning my moment of freedom, Steven's world was quietly shifting around me. My best friend Kiara had been struggling with feelings she'd kept buried for 3 years. She'd introduced us back in college. They were friends first. And she'd been harboring this secret crush on him ever since. 2 weeks before my party, she'd finally broken down and confessed everything to him, sobbing about how she was the worst friend ever, and planning to distance herself after our wedding because watching us together was too painful. Steven had apparently felt something too, but he'd been committed to me. The keyword being had been, the party was everything I'd dreamed. Everyone was having an amazing time. The music was perfect, and I felt like the queen I was meant to be. Around 10 p.m., after a few mojitos had given me the liquid courage I needed, I decided it was time for my big announcement. I clinked my glass and watched as the entire room turned to focus on me. This was it, my moment of truth. Thank you all for coming to celebrate me. I started feeling powerful and free. The energy in the room was electric, everyone hanging on my words. Then I looked directly at Steven, who was standing near the bar with that slight smile he always wore when he was thinking. I have something important to announce. After a lot of soul-searching, I've decided I need to explore my options before settling down. The room went dead silent. Someone literally dropped their glass. The sound echoed through the sudden quiet. I felt everyone's eyes on me, and it was intoxicating. I continued, my voice getting stronger. I'm too young to commit to forever with just one person. Steven and I are taking a break so I can see what's out there. I need to know I'm not missing out on something better. I expected drama. I expected tears. Maybe Steven begging me to reconsider. Some kind of emotional reaction that would prove I mattered to him. Instead, he just raised his glass with that same calm smile and said, "Here's to Alexis exploring her options." Everyone awkwardly lifted their drinks and toasted, but I felt completely deflated. This wasn't the reaction I'd wanted at all. His calm acceptance felt like he was relieved to be rid of me, like he'd been waiting for an excuse to walk away. It stung more than I'd expected. But then Steven did something that still makes my stomach drop when I think about it. He set down his glass and walked straight across the room toward Kiara, who was standing near the dessert table, looking absolutely mortified. She probably thought he was devastated and coming to her for comfort. That's what any normal person would assume. Instead, Steven got down on one knee right there in front of everyone. The DJ actually stopped the music mid-song. The entire room held its breath. "Kiara," he said, his voice carrying across the silent venue. "You've been there through everything. You introduced me to love, just not the way we thought it would happen. Will you marry me?" He pulled out a ring. My ring. The one I'd returned to him 3 days earlier because it felt too heavy and I needed space to think clearly. Kiara's eyes went wide with complete shock. "Steven, what are you doing?" she whispered, but her voice carried in the silence. "Exploring my options," he replied, never breaking eye contact with her. "And my best option has always been right here." The room exploded. People started pulling out their phones, recording, gasping, some actually cheering. And then, the ultimate betrayal. Kiara looked at him with tears in her eyes and said yes. I lost it completely. "What the hell?" I screamed. But my own mother appeared out of nowhere and literally covered my mouth with her hand. When I tried to rush toward them, my sister Tori grabbed my arm and held me back. "You literally just announced you wanted to explore options," Tori said firmly. "He's exploring his..." The crowd was going wild now, surrounding Steven and Kiara with congratulations. People were taking selfies with them. The DJ started playing romantic music, and I watched my entire world flip upside down in the span of 5 minutes. But it got worse. As I stood there in shock, the party planner approached me with a clipboard. "Excuse me, about the final payment for the venue. This is my party." I managed to say, "I'm paying for it. Actually, ma'am." The booking was changed to an engagement party about 30 minutes ago. Someone called and updated all the details. That someone turned out to be Kiara's brother Adrian, who'd apparently heard my speech, watched Steven walk toward his sister, and immediately called the venue to rebrand everything. I had just paid $8,000 for my ex-fiancé to propose to my best friend at what was now officially their engagement party. The next few days were a blur of humiliation and rage. I tried to control the narrative on social media, posting this long explanation about how Steven had been emotionally cheating with Kiara and how they'd planned this whole thing to publicly humiliate me. I painted myself as the victim of this elaborate scheme, but social media is unforgiving, and at least 20 people had recorded my entire speech. My cousin Destiny posted the whole thing with the caption, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." The video went viral, 15,000 likes and thousands of comments, most of them roasting me for announcing I wanted to find something better, and then getting upset when Steven found exactly that. Steven didn't stay quiet either. He posted a single photo that destroyed my victim narrative completely, a picture of me with my ex-boyfriend Marcus in Miami, dated from 2 years ago, during what I'd told Steven was a girls' spa weekend. The truth was, I'd reconnected with Marcus during that trip, and we'd had a brief fling that I'd convinced myself didn't count, because Steven and I were going through a rough patch. The comments on that post were brutal. People started connecting dots, realizing that while I was accusing Steven of emotional cheating, I'd actually been physically cheating on him. My carefully constructed story crumbled overnight. Then the real truth came out, and it made everything so much worse. Kiara had been in love with Steven for 3 years, but never said anything because of our friendship. She'd been planning to distance herself after our wedding because watching us together was torture for her. They had kissed once, 2 years ago, but she'd stopped it immediately, saying they couldn't betray me like that. The irony was sickening. While she was protecting our friendship and suffering in silence, I was literally cheating on Steven in Miami. The internet had a field day with this information. I went from victim to villain in 24 hours, and everyone could see exactly who I really was. I couldn't accept that this was how my story was going to end. On Sunday morning, I called Steven, screaming about how he'd ruined my birthday. His response was infuriatingly calm. "You announced you wanted to explore options." I didn't mean right then and there. "So when did you mean?" he asked. The truth came tumbling out before I could stop it. "I wanted to date around for a few months and then come back to you. So I was supposed to wait while you tested out other guys. Yes. If you really loved me, you would have." He hung up on me. That's when my family started getting involved. And not in the way I'd hoped. My mom called him a snake. My dad said he'd violated trust. My brother Devin threatened to handle this in person. But Steven had receipts for everything. When I showed up at his apartment with Devin and 2 guys I'd been talking to on dating apps, demanding my ring back, Kiara was there. She'd been staying in the spare bedroom since the party, and seeing her in Steven's space made me lose whatever composure I had left. I called her every name I could think of, accused her of being a backstabbing snake who'd stolen my man. Kiara stayed completely calm throughout my meltdown. "You threw him away in front of everyone on purpose," she said quietly. "You wanted to hurt him?" "I was testing him." I screamed back. "You failed your own test?" Even the random guys I'd brought with me started looking uncomfortable. One of them spoke up. "Joe, she told us you stole her man." But this sounds like she dumped him first. Devin looked embarrassed and dragged me out of there. But not before I heard Steven play a voicemail I'd left 3 days before the party. "Keep the stupid ring? I don't want it anymore. I need to be free." My desperation reached new lows over the following weeks. I sent Steven an actual invoice, $18,000 for emotional damages, lost relationship investment, party costs, and ring depreciation. His lawyer friend apparently couldn't stop laughing when he saw it. I tried spreading rumors about Steven being abusive and manipulative, but that backfired spectacularly when I showed up at his gym to tell people and got kicked out for harassment. I organized a solidarity brunch for women who'd been betrayed, but made the mistake of inviting Kiara's sister without realizing who she was. Adrienne showed up, listened to me rant for 5 minutes, then stood up and said, "Girl, you announced in front of me that you wanted to see if you could do better than Steven. Now your Maddie found better?" She live-tweeted the entire brunch, highlighting every contradiction in my story. The worst part was when my credit card got declined paying for the meal, because I'd maxed it out trying to book a revenge vacation to Europe. 3 months after the party, my parents delivered the final blow. They sold the condo I'd been living in. Apparently, they'd owned it all along, and I'd been paying them minimal rent. They gave me 30 days to find a new place because I needed to learn consequences. You had something real with Steven, my mom said when I tried to argue. You threw it away for social media fantasies and drama. Meanwhile, Steven and Kiara were doing everything right. They went to couples therapy to make sure they were building something healthy rather than just bonding over my chaos. The venue even gave them a credit for a future event since they'd technically gotten engaged there. Steven's family loved Kiara. His mom made some comment about always thinking she was the one, which felt like revisionist history, but whatever. I ended up back in my childhood bedroom, dating a guy who believed cryptocurrency was going to replace the government and that the moon landing was fake. Even he dumped me after I kept trying to get him to invest in my revenge boutique idea, empowerment clothes for women who'd been wronged. The worst part is that Steven posted the entire story on Reddit, and it blew up. Thousands of people calling it the smoothest Uno reverse in relationship history and praising him for his perfect timing. The comments were full of people calling me delusional and entitled, saying I got exactly what I deserved. Looking back now, I can see that maybe I made some mistakes. Fine. I cheated with Marcus in Miami, and maybe I shouldn't have announced my plans to date around at my own birthday party. But Steven didn't have to humiliate me like that in front of everyone. He could have handled it privately, could have shown some respect for the 5 years we'd spent together. Instead, he turned my moment of honest self-reflection into his fairy tale ending with my best friend. Kiara got the ring, the man, and the sympathy, while I became the cautionary tale everyone loves to share at dinner parties. The thing that really gets me is how everyone acts like Steven's some kind of hero for this. He's not. He's a guy who was probably planning this whole thing the moment Kiara confessed her feelings. He just waited for the perfect moment to make me look like the bad guy. But I'm not going to apologize for wanting more than settling. I'm not going to pretend that being with someone safe and predictable was enough for me. Maybe I went about it the wrong way. But at least I was brave enough to be honest about what I wanted instead of living a lie like everyone else seems content to do. Steven got lucky that Kiara was available and desperate enough to be his rebound. If she hadn't been there, he'd probably still be crying over losing me. Instead, he gets to be the protagonist of this story while I'm the one everyone loves to hate. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd kept my mouth shut and gone through with the wedding like everyone expected. But then I remember how suffocated I felt, how much I craved something more exciting than grocery shopping and Netflix nights. And I know I made the right choice. I just wish everyone else could see it that way.